Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to the good, the bad, and the ugly for Battlefield 5, a critical overview. This is the series where I give my complete thoughts and opinions on a game that I've been able to play quite a bit before release. I played this at EA Play, talked to community managers, developers a little bit, and I have been playing the alpha quite a lot. The gameplay you're going to get to see in this video is primarily me playing the Assault class, but I believe I spent more time doing Medic than anything else. I just think I got my best gameplay as Assault, so that's what I wanted to show off today. So let's start off with the good things about Battlefield 5, then we're going to move into the bad, and then of course the very, very ugly things. The good is that gunplay is way tighter than any Battlefield game since maybe Battlefield 3, maybe even since before that. There's faster bullet speed, tighter spread when you aim down sights, less drop, higher headshot damage, better hit registration. Pretty much everything about it is way, way better feeling. It feels more like I'm killing people, like I'm dropping them, like my shots connect, and not like my bullets are randomly bouncing all over the place and I'm shooting potatoes and sponges at my enemies. It actually feels more like a shooter instead of some sort of weird projectile battle, which Battlefield 1 and to a lesser degree some of the other Battlefields have fell into. It also seems like there's faster aim down sights and overall a faster ability to react as well. It feels very COD-ish, which we will come back to later, but Call of Duty has always had great gunplay, and it's finally good to see that in Battlefield instead of relying on more RNG type mechanics. There's now more realistic animations than any other shooter that I've played in recent memory. There's rolling on the ground, a variety of different prones. You can vault, you can climb, you can slide, you can duck to prone, you can hip fire, you can run while crouching, you can jump, you fall. Every animation, every action that you take has a realistic feel to it. It has a momentum, it has a weight, it mirrors that in the guns, and it mirrors it in your third-person animations in a way that makes sense, which I like. Vaulting and climbing, great addition to the game. It was really frustrating in Battlefield 1 to not be able to jump up high enough to some ledge to get onto things, and this one I can just hold spacebar and climb, or I can jump and reach up and grab it with my hands. It's I wouldn't say a small change to the engine, but it's one that's so good you'll get used to it very, very quickly, and those are the kind of changes that this game needs. Combined with the gunplay and the bullets, reaction time, animations, vaulting, climbing, and everything, the overall feel of the gunplay in Battlefield is better than it's ever been. As J-Hub says, this could be a better COD than COD. Like if Battlefield wanted to make a small map and just call it definitely not Call of Duty, it would probably be better than actual Call of Duty with what they've done with the weapons. There's some other good things since the classes have less lethal grenades, or just a variety of different tactical grenades, at least in this build. That means that there's less grenade spam. There's less random things that are going to come in and blow you up and be annoying. There's also a lot less vehicles on the map, which means there's a lot less vehicle spam. You're not constantly getting hit by tanks and planes and trains and, constantly having cars run at you. You have space to walk, and it's a much more infantry-focused game. Since you can't melee charge people with a bayonet and they don't get like sucked into you from the side, there's also a lot less melee spam. Like you can't just melee somebody from the front. It's slower. Yeah, you can hit them from the side and the back and insta kill them, or if they're low health they'll do the animation, but for the most part you're not going to get meleeed a whole lot, and you're going to not rely on your melee system nearly as much as you did in Battlefield 1. Another thing that's a lot less spammy is spotting. The whole spotting system has been completely reworked, so you can't just get tagged over and over and over again, and you won't constantly have enemies knowing where you're trying to hide. All of those are good things in a way, but they have drawbacks that we'll be talking about in the ugly system. The definitely not kill streaks that they added to Conquest in this game, to where if your squad earns enough points, you can call in a lovely V2 rocket like this one, or a big tank or a flame tank or something cool. They work surprisingly well in this sort of game. I thought that the kill streaks, definitely not kill streaks, squad support assist things that totally definitely don't copy Call of Duty, wouldn't really pan out in Battlefield, and it would encourage bad team play and point whoring and some weirder kind of things of just constantly reviving your teammates, but overall that didn't happen. It seemed to really encourage objective play. It gave me something to try to save my points for and work up toward the end game, and you could definitely tell the squads that were trying to call in V2 rockets and the squads that were trying to earn the cool tanks and do cool things with their streaks. I personally enjoyed it. I also enjoyed that medics are viable now and that they can fight. Previously, medics were Their guns were not the greatest since maybe Battlefield 3, in my opinion. But they get submachine guns again. They get the lesser submachine guns. The assault submachine gun's still better, but this one's workable. I initially made the mistake of aiming down sights with the MP40 a lot, but unlike most of the guns in the game, the SMGs still seem to be very, very much so hipfire centered. The Gewehr rifle is just downright filthy as a DMR, and that's a very good feel. I also do like the idea behind the revive system, that anybody can slowly pick up a teammate as they see fit, but only medics can revive outside of their squad, and only medics can do it quickly. That makes a lot of good sense to me. The healing makes sense. I initially kind of didn't like going through the animations of picking up the bags, or it was just kind of slow, but eventually I liked it because my teammates could throw bags at me and I could just catch them and heal midair, or vice versa. I could just chunk bags at my teammates, and most of the time it would go through the animation and my guy would pick it up as soon as it hit the ground. It felt like this really great bro moment where I was healing people as a medic. There's some standard things about Battlefield that are good. Graphics are great, but that's standard for the last several Battlefield games. Map scale is enormous. Player counts are huge. Very destructible. Good customization options when we're talking about controls, HUD, auto-aim, vehicle choices, things like that. Maybe not necessarily the less than historically accurate other customization options that everybody are going crazy about that we're not going to talk about too much in this video, but all the things that you would expect from Battlefield: good graphics, big map, lots of players, lots of choices on how you customize your ability to play. Fantastic. Love it. Good to go. And I'm going to put this in near the end of the good section, is that the ability to fortify a location is nice too. It's a nice idea that I can take a minute to lay down some sandbags and build me some cover and kind of get ready to hunker down and camp that location, defend that location, we'll say. It's a nice touch to the game. And finally, one of the best things is no DLC, no paid maps, no season pass, no paid weapons, no RNG drops, no microtransactions, none of that sort of nonsense. There's also going to be a free Battle Royale mode. Well, free in the sense that if you get the game, you can play the Battle Royale mode. You'll have to get the game, of course. But EA's decided not to nickel and dime their customers and do as much content as they possibly can for the least amount of money, which is a good thing. And they're finally moving into modern gaming. But unfortunately, that's the end of the good things. Now we're going to talk about the bad things, the things that are annoying, but we'll say relatively fixable at this point in the game. And that's that hider gunplay, while good, causes good players to drop you super fast. You can't really bob and weave. There's not a lot of reaction time. In previous Battlefield games, you would hear the shots coming, you'd get suppressed, a lot of them would miss, and you'd have this half second to think, oh, I'm being shot at. I need to react and take cover, or I need to do something about this. Well, in Battlefield 5, you're just going to get shot and you're going to die. And that's all there is to it. You're just going to die. You won't know where they were. You're not going to know who's going to shooting at you. They get an angle on you. They're going to pick you off like it's Counter-Strike. You are just completely donezo. And it changed the complete meta of the game to where it's not this like in-your-face, hip-fire, slow-killing, slugfest, bullet trading sort of thing. It's a game of getting picks now. It's a serious pick-heavy game. Reminds me of Overwatch a little bit in that extent. And on that same note, sniper rifles are too strong as well. I love what they've done with the sniper rifle bullet speed. I love what they've done with the drop. And I like these things. I don't think that sniper rifles should have that crazy slow bullet and that huge arc because they're annoying to shoot. But the problem with the sniper is that the headshot hitbox is too big. It's so easy to get headshots. I am actually trash at sniping, and I am garbage at quickscoping, but it is not very hard to do in this game. You can just pop people in the head very, very easily with sniper rifles. That headshot hitbox needs to be smaller. Finally, back on the topic of fortifications, they get me killed more often than not, and they're not worth a whole lot of points, so there's not a big incentive for me to go build a whole bunch of fortifications. If a whole team does it, it's great. If what happens in most games, nobody on your team does it, and you're sitting there trying to lay sandbags, you're just going to get shot. And it's a good idea in theory, but I don't feel that the incentives are there, especially not for all modes. In the grand operations, it makes a lot more sense for your team to get there early and build up a bunch of fortifications, but they're not that amazing because almost any explosive will blow away the sandbags pretty quickly, and you really have to be dependent on your team to do it, and you're not rewarded, and I don't really do it a whole lot. I don't really think it's worth your time to fortify a whole bunch of things because it's just going to get blown up in a few minutes anyway. Another thing that I mentioned in the good that does have a bad side as well is that in order for there to be less grenade spam, there had to be less lethal grenades, which means that you may not have any lethal grenades when you really need them. And this is that double-edged sword. They don't want everybody to spawn in on their teammates, fling a grenade at a whole bunch of enemies, and then die, and then just spawn in and do it over and over and over again because that's annoying. But there are times where I, a true tactical player who would never do such a thing, would notice that there's some enemies camping in a house, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to hit them with this grenade and bounce them out. Oh wait, I'm a medic, I have smoke. Or I don't have anything to get them out of this house on this class. So it makes me feel vulnerable in some of my classes in ways that I really don't like. I feel very, very outmatched when I probably shouldn't feel that way. And another thing that makes me feel weird is that there aren't very many vehicles, and there's also no fun vehicles to use. At any given point, at least on the one map in the alpha, there could be on your team, that would be 2 airplanes in the sky, 1 tank, and 1 car. So that's 4 vehicles on your team and 4 vehicles on the enemy team if they're all up at the same time, and they very rarely are. Maybe if somebody calls in a special tank, we can take that up to 9 total vehicles on the entire map. And it just doesn't feel very Battlefieldy for there to not be vehicles around. One of the main reasons that I play Battlefield and enjoy it so much is that I get to do a lot of vehicle shenanigans. I get to ride horses, I get to ride planes and blimps and trains, and I get to do tanks and buggies and go-karts and ATVs and all sorts of fun stuff like that. It's not tactical. It gets me killed most of the time, but it's really fun. But Battlefield 5 doesn't really have that. I don't know where that went. I guess the idea was to remove the amount of vehicle spam on the map and make it a more infantry-focused game, which, good on you, you did that, but you took away some of my fun as well. A slightly different topic, I believe the assault kit is very hard to deal with sometimes. The assault kit is the one that I get the best gameplay with. I think it's easiest to use. That's because the STG is just a great weapon. It doesn't have a lot of recoil. It doesn't have a lot of inaccuracy when you aim down sights, and I want that to stay the same. But a lot of the other kits kind of struggle to compete with it. The support LMGs can't really compete with it at most ranges. Snipers, I guess, can quickscope you, but medics really struggle. The medic SMG isn't going to win many fights against that. And it's just kind of rough, in my opinion. The kit's also loaded down with rocket launchers that can blow you up. They added a lot of drop to them, thank goodness. But they also have C4 and a lethal grenade, dynamite, mind you. It's dynamite you throw. It's definitely not C4. And a lethal grenade that they throw. And that just gives that class a whole ton of lethality. I get that assault kit is the kit that kills people and the other guys back up the assault guys, but it puts you at such a disadvantage sometimes, especially when I'd play medic with my MP40. I would get a couple of good shots on an assault guy, and then he would turn around and just headshot me twice, and I'd be done. Or I would run into a squad of like 1 medic and 3 assault dudes, and they would just throw 3 grenades at me, and I would blow up. Or I'd run in as a tanker, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's not that hard to kill general infantry, but if you run into like 2 assault guys, they're just going to murder you with the amount of explosives they have. And it didn't really feel fair or balanced, in my opinion. Moving along, of things that I already mentioned in the good, the spotting system is very hard for me. I'm colorblind, so maybe I don't see or recognize the camos as well. Maybe I struggle with it somewhat. But I had a very difficult time telling apart allies from enemies in this game. The body structures weren't very distinct from the background. It was very easy for people to hide in little dark corners. It was very hard for me or for my teammates to properly tag and spot people, and very little auto-tagging mechanics going on as well. So there were a lot of enemies I could have killed that I just walked right past, that I never noticed. I found myself relying more on footsteps and gunshots and things like that than I was on my visual senses, and I'm a colorblind player, so this is a bit harder for me. But I just felt that the allies and the Axis looked way too similar to each other, especially when you started adding customization on that. I had a super hard time telling people apart, especially when they'd roll around in the snow and stuff. And speaking of snow, I do not like that people can hide in snow and hide in trees like crazy. The way that they hide in trees reminds me of how people would hide in trees in Battlefield 3. It was just nothing but endless bushwookies. All of the best players would lay down in the snow and in the trees. They really couldn't be seen or couldn't be tagged very well. And yeah, they had some difficulty shooting out. But when I used that tactic, I found it similarly advantageous. It was not hard to do that at all. And I believe that instead of it being a brilliant like stealth tactic, especially when it comes to the snow, they were just taking advantage of map geometry in ways that it wasn't meant to be done. Now that I'm talking about glitches, I think it's time to finally move down into the ugly. The ugly and the ugliest part of this entire alpha for me is the low ammo count and the non-regenerating health arbitrarily slow down gunplay. You're pretty much always micromanaging the ammo packs, which I, as a COD player, would call scavenger packs that enemies drops, or you're fighting over supply stations, or you're begging for a medic to give you something, because you can't just be patient and get all of your health back. You either won't regen or you won't regen all the way. Having only 2 magazines means that you'll run out of ammo very, very quickly. Even if you're very conservative and very accurate with it, you can kill maybe 1 squad before you have to be resupplied on ammo. And the people you kill don't drop a lot of ammo. So there's almost an entirely new mini game added to this of you just trying to find ammo, and that just slows down the pace of the game. I believe, as I've mentioned before, the developers did it because if the gunplay's tight and you pick people super fast, they don't want some dude to spawn in with 140 rounds and just go murder everybody in their spawn, because that's kind of what I would want to do, and that's what a lot of people would want to do. But it's so extreme on the other side. I find myself dying in gunfights because I'm afraid to expend ammo because I know that I won't be getting anymore, and that's a very, very bad feeling. And I also don't like fighting over the health stations because they're not true objectives. This could have been done to enforce squad play, to guarantee that you get a support guy and a medic guy and a sniper guy and all this kind of stuff. But guess what? That doesn't work because nobody cares about that in Battlefield. They don't care about that in Battlefield any more than they care about that in Call of Duty or Rainbow Six or Overwatch or any other online game. League of Legends, where people have been getting salty about it for years, where that one guy wants to come in and just play casually and he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to run around and shoot people. But you need these people to be cooperative and communicative for you to function in this game before you run out of bullets, but nobody cares because everybody just wants to run around and kill whore, and that's how every shooter has been since the beginning of ever. Even my own squad, even when I play with friends, it's the same thing. They just don't care about that mechanic, and it just arbitrarily slows the game down. The hold to revive system is actually just bad, in my opinion. It's actually just a bad system. Again, I like that you can pick up teammates if you're not a medic slowly, and I like the way that the medic does it fast and, out of squad and stuff. But what you used to do is you would just die and you would see your body for a minute and you could go to the menu and play around. Well, now you die and you have to lay there in the snow and you have to decide if I want to bleed out or if I want to call for help, and you have to wait and watch that little skull meter slowly tick around for you to be able to respawn. Or you can call for help and watch your medics and teammates come by and not help you and not revive you, which is insanely frustrating because on your end, you get this audio cue that, help me, I'm down, come pick me up, or whatever they would say in German, but they don't always hear that, they don't notice that, they can't see all the things, you don't even have good vision. It'd be even better if you had like a third person point of view instead of just those bloody hands reaching up. It feels like it slows down the respawns, and I know it doesn't quite. And in the alpha, it's also really buggy because when you die, your death animation isn't consistent with your third person animation. So when you die, you'll just fall and you'll like crumple into this little like ragdoll pile. But your first person animation is that you're up and leaning on your back and reaching out, but that's not what people see. That's not what enemies see. I'll kill a guy and I'll see the body and be like, okay, he's dead. What I would expect in almost any other game like this is I would kill a guy and I would see that he's down and he's calling for help, and I would know that he could still be revived somehow, instead of just looking at a weird ragdoll that I can't interact with. It's bad on a lot of levels. It, again, slows respawns, frustrates players, it's buggy, and the animations don't match. I really, really don't like that. The next thing is that while there are less tanks, and I find the tanks to be less powerful than they were before, if you're not an assault class character, there's pretty much nothing you can do against the tank. There's not enough heavy artillery on the map to shoot them. Most of the classes don't have lethal grenades. I guess the support guy can throw down mines for them to run over if they're stupid, but that doesn't really happen. If you're not an assault guy, you just can't do anything against tanks. They just murder you. You just have to avoid them, completely run away from them. However, if you are an assault guy, if you're a solo assault guy, it's kind of weird in that each action that you take doesn't deal a lot of damage to the tank, but it happens pretty quickly. Throw a bunch of dynamite, shoot a bunch of rockets, whatever. And you might not kill the tank before you run completely out of ammo. But if you run into 2 or 3 assault guys, which is pretty common in some of the sweaty squads, they'll just blow your tank up instantly and there's like nothing you can do. You just get shot from 3 or 4 directions. You just get completely explodified. And that's just doesn't seem like good balance to me. Finally, my last 2 criticisms. These are really big ones, even though I don't have good examples of them. Number one is that there's no big wow moment in Battlefield 5. There's no Battlefield 4 building collapse. There's no Levolution moment. There's no huge awesome thing that happens. It just plays the map. That's it. You play the map and the buildings destroy and grand operations are grand, but there's not a flood, an avalanche, there's not a hurricane, there's not nothing. There's no dreadnoughts, no blimp comes in, no boat, no train, no big wow marketing moment. And I know that there are reasons that, Battlefield players didn't like those and we moved out of those over time, but I kind of miss them. It was a hype moment in the game when the freaking blimp came in and you had to kill it, or you had to go horse versus train or something like that. And I don't have that in Battlefield 4. And finally, there's also way less funny moments. There's way less syringe kills, repair tool kills, special melee, burn somebody with a blowtorch, horses, broken physics, cars that go fast and bounce and send you flying and kill you and your team. There are way less intense funny moments like that in Battlefield 5. And that's just sad for me. It feels like we're missing something that's been endemic to the Battlefield series. Something big, goofy, silly, marketing, hype, whatever you want to call it. It's not there. This is a much more competitive and focused game. And I believe that they've lost focus on what's important, which is in my final summary of this entire review, is that DICE tightened up Battlefield a lot. They tried to make this truly a modern shooter, opposite of Battlefield 1 in a lot of ways, and they wanted it to be a modern squad game, like Overwatch or Siege or something, or even the Battle Royale games, which are so popular. You need to cooperate with your squad to do this. But unfortunately, it was done at the cost of a lot of other systems, and what it creates is a lot of micromanaging, which I find to be annoying. Alright guys, well that's all for Battlefield 5, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I hope that you enjoyed this review. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.